Streamlining Project Management with Safran Project. We appreciate you investing the time to learn a little bit more about Safran the company and our premier project scheduling tool, which is a Safran Project. My name is Jeff Russell. I'm the VP of Sales for Americas for Safran, and I'm joined by Camille Frost, the Director of Sales Consulting, Katie Hall, the Corporate Marketing Manager, and Dean Edmondson, the CEO of the Americas. So Camille will be giving the demo here momentarily, and Katie will be managing the administration behind the scenes. So a couple of housekeeping items. Katie has everyone muted. I think we've all been on enough of these webcasts to know it's very difficult to leave everyone's lines live and not have a lot of background noise. So Katie has everyone muted. We are very interested in any questions people have. So as you think of them and as we go through this, please do log them into the chat feature of the GoToMeeting so that Katie can have those. And when we get to the Q&A section at the end, we'll have them collected and be able to respond to them. And so with that, I'll hop into the webcast here. So the agenda, like I said, I'm going to do a quick 5 to 7 minute overview of Safran the company and Safran Project, just to give you a little bit of overview of what Camille's going to be showing you. I'll hand it off to Camille Frost, who will do a demo of the product for approximately 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll slide into the Q&A. So a little bit of background about Safran. We have, as a company, have been around 22 plus years. We have offices in Houston, Texas, London, Oslo, and Stavanger, Norway. We provide project management solutions for some of the most demanding markets out there around project and project scheduling. So our primary focus is on the asset-intensive space. So oil, gas, and chemicals, infrastructure, engineering, construction, A&D, and utilities. And one of the key differentiators of Safran as a company and a project management solution provider, we are exclusively focused on these industries. This is where we spend 100% of our time, thought, and money optimizing and investing in our products, is to better a solution for this space. So it's a big differentiator for us as a company. Our customers have responded to that. This is a sample customer list. You'll see a lot of oil, gas, construction, and utility companies in here, obviously. So these companies use us for STO, shutdown, turnarounds, outages, major capital projects, and all the way into onshore drilling for rig management, frac management, and completions management. So a variety of uses for our products, but all in those vertical spaces. Another one of the differentiators of our products we'll talk about is we're a unified solution, as we kind of gave away in the tagline here. So Accenture did a study around project management, and they found a couple of compelling items. First of all, as we all know, project complexity and size continues to increase. I think more concerning, only 15% of projects are delivered on time and only 30% on budget. So they spend a little time trying to find root cause of what's causing this performance issues. And what they came up with is PPM systems have become too costly and complicated to deploy, and many disparate solutions are delivering limited value. So to put that in pictures, and I think most of us that have been in this space a long time will recognize this, in any company, the project management systems have tended to grow somewhat organically. So different departments have different, even project scheduling tools. They might have Primavera, they might have Safran, and they might have Microsoft. In addition, they're layered in with additional tools like risk management tools from perhaps the same vendor or a different vendor, EVM tools, reporting tools, and all of this creates basically a collection of systems that become very complicated for IT to manage. All these systems have to be integrated and work together behind the scenes. That drives up the total cost of ownership for the systems. But I think more compelling and more of a problem is it becomes very difficult for the user. So a user has to be familiar with multiple user interfaces and multiple processes for moving their projects around these tools. The end result is lower adoption, or even worse, a user only adopts the minimum amount of capability they have to use to meet minimum expectations. So they're not using risk management to optimize their schedule, or they're not using quality reporting to report on their schedule. They're just doing the minimum because it's too difficult for the user to learn and manage. So that leads me to the second key differentiator. As I said, the first key differentiator of Safran is the market we focus on, the asset-intensive space. The second is that we're a unified project management solution. We have built this system over that 20 years ourselves. We did not acquire additional technology to meet these needs. We didn't buy third-party solutions and bolt them together. This is a tool that's unified under one screen, under one user experience, and that provides a complete solution for unified project management solutions. What we call that really is the 3 steps to project excellence, is the way we view our tool set and how it can be used. So step 1, you can create the plan, again, in Safran Project, the one tool we're talking about today. So traditional planning and scheduling and resource management in the box, integration to ERP systems, so SAP integration in the box, the ability to integrate to other third-party systems also there, and then integration with P6 in Microsoft Project. We're very aware, and like I just discussed, everyone deals with multiple project management tools, either through subcontractors or within their own company. So we make it very easy for users to import projects into Safran from Primavera or Microsoft Project, execute on those projects within Safran, and then either leave them in Safran or put them back out into a Primavera format or Microsoft Project format. So make it very easy for you to interoperate in a mixed project management environment. And all that's done through a user interface. Anyone that's been around project management tools for any amount of time is going to be very comfortable in the Safran user interface. It's very familiar. It's exactly what you would expect to see. Step 2 of project excellence for us is risk adjust the plan. So again, integrated into the same tool set, Safran Project, is a Monte Carlo risk analysis tool and what-if scenario planning. So you have the ability, and we call it really democratization of risk. So to date, risk has really been managed by 1 or 2 people in most organizations, and it's only done on a very, very limited number of projects. And a lot of that has to do with the complexity of risk projects out there and just the lack of understanding of risk. Camille's going to show you some of the use cases for our quick risk that are going to allow your general project manager to be able to risk adjust their schedule and give a more accurate time to management about when their schedule is going to be completed and when the project is going to be completed. That's going to lead to better project performance and obviously higher satisfaction for your customers and your management. We also have integrated in what-if scenario planning. So in the beginning of a project, often you want to look at multiple scenarios and what's the outcome of the scenarios. So you can do that through the what-if scenario planning. I think even more common, you're 20%, 30% into a project and things change. So we give you the ability, again, with what-if scenario planning to create multiple scenarios, look at the impact through the reporting piece of our product, and see the impact to the schedule and the end result, and choose the best what-if scenario or parts of different what-if scenarios to create the best new plan. This, again, I'm just giving you some screenshots of the product. This is, again, as you'll see, the same product, Safran Project, with the Monte Carlo risk piece at the bottom, and your ability to do a risk analysis on a project through the same user interface and provide a more accurate timeline for your project. Again, Camille will be demoing this in the following section. And then step 3, manage the plan. So we've built the plan, we've optimized the plan, now we need to execute and manage and report on the plan. So again, in the same tool set, we have full EVM capabilities, earned value management and earned value management reporting capabilities. We have change management capabilities, and we have project reporting. And our project reporting is really, really strong. All of y'all that have been in project management a long time know the difficulty to do S-curves, burn down reports, total of completion, estimate of completion in existing tools out there. All of this is available in the Safran Project tool, and it gives you the ability to do some really comprehensive reporting. And on the left-hand side, another one that I think is really intriguing is we understand time, or have the concept of time and trending in Safran. So you're able to do trending reports and see if your projects are, or if your portfolios of projects or a project itself is trending up. In other words, the project performance is improving. Is it staying the same, or is it declining and you need to have some intervention into the project to make some changes? One thing I'll add, and we'll show you at the end here the link for this, I would highly suggest for anyone that's on the call to go to our website and download. We have a reporting document, or a document on our reporting executive reports, and it gives you a full overview of all the reports available in Safran. And so we'll show you at the end where to link to that and download that, but I highly suggest y'all follow that link. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Camille Frost. Camille, I'll let you introduce yourself and step into the demo. While you're introducing yourself, I'll hand you control.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us again today. My name is Camille Frost, and I am Director of Sales Consulting at Safran, and I'll be guiding you through a real high-level overview of our product today. Jeff, can you see my screen okay?
I sure can.
Perfect. So what we're going to do is start out with just the things that Jeff Russell was talking about and establishing your plan. And more importantly, what's the look and feel of that in the Safran project product? You know, as you would expect from any scheduling engine, on the left-hand side, you know, we're looking at a list of the activities or things that we need to accomplish within this single project that I have open right now. This one happens to be organized by work breakdown structure. Certainly there are many ways to organize a project or multiple projects into a portfolio, and we'll take a look at that. But what's the environment like? Well, if I wanted to add a new activity, if I do a simple right-click in the general area of the product, I can see that I can insert or add an activity, delete one here. I could start defining some sorts, some filters, maybe even going into the group properties and creating a new layout or things of that nature. On the right-hand side, we see the Gantt chart, and again, this is completely configurable by you. And typically the things that you would want to do, again, are a simple right-click away. So if I do a right-click and I want to modify maybe one of the symbols that's showing up on the bar chart, I could do that. And if we look at our baseline plan bar, that's what we're looking at currently for the most part in our project. So I've chosen to make it kind of a blue bar. And then on top of that, I've put some text around it. I told it that I wanted to show the activity ID inside the bar, and you can see that here, as well as the baseline early finish date to the right of the bar. So again, things like this are just a simple right-click away in Safran. We do a critical path analysis, a forward and a backward pass. That's a little bit more advanced for today's topic, but if I wanted to take a look at the activities that are on the critical path, that's something I can turn off and on. So again, I'll do a simple right-click, and I'll say that I want to highlight my critical path. We'll use red, that's pretty common, but if I wanted to use green, I could certainly do that, and we'll turn that on. And you can see that my critical path is now highlighted here in red. If we kind of shift our focus to the bottom part of the screen, you can see that there's a legend here, and it's telling me that, in fact, the baseline plan is being shown, as well as some milestone markers that are stars highlighted in pink. Again, a right-click on this legend, and I see there are more things available to me. So we are going to take a look at resources, histograms, the schedule risk, as Jeff mentioned. For now, if I just wanted more information about the activities that are being displayed, I get a series of tabs down here in the lower part where I can look at different information with respect to the activity that's currently highlighted. So let's change our layout or view, if you will, to this single project and see how much different it can get. So in this next view, we're looking at the same exact project, but now instead of grouping by the work breakdown structure, we're actually grouping first by a work package, and then secondly by phase. If I were uncertain of what I was looking at, I could highlight a particular activity and come down here and see what codes are associated with that. So again, this brings up the notion of what we call reference fields, which could be texts or dates, or what you may actually know of as activity-type codes, and I can assign those values to my activities. So for discipline, I might want to change this one from revision stop to maintenance, for example, or I could modify the phase as well. So again, hopefully you're seeing through my clicking around and navigating through the product, the building a plan in Safran is easily accomplished. So a big part of building your project or schedule could also be resource or role loading. So in this example, what we've chosen to do is actually load this activity in more of a generic fashion in terms of man hours, which is pretty common in certain industries. But certainly if I wanted to load at more of a role level where I've got, you know, a piece of equipment where I put a crane on it and it has a fixed cost, for example, that's certainly possible. Or if I want to actually go to the named resource level where I put Camille Frost here, and I understand what her rate is, and how many hours I want to assign her to this activity and then start building my budget from the bottom up, we can certainly do that. And again, as you would expect, a right-click in the area, in the resources area, would enable me to add a new resource or delete one. And in the lower right-hand corner, we have, out-of-the-box histograms that allow you a view into a particular activity or even multiple activities, and looking at the resource requirements for that activity. So on this particular activity, I can see the hours that are assigned to it as well as other activities for this resource. It may be a little bit difficult to see, but there's a red line moving across the screen here, and that is my capacity for the resource that we're currently looking at. So I can see quickly where I'm over or under allocated on this resource, and I can see that I'm okay here for this particular activity. You may have a need for more complex resource views, and those are certainly configurable and out of the box within Safran projects. So here I've changed our view slightly, and we'll just do a quick print preview of what's showing on the bottom portion of the screen. This is one of our out-of-the-box reports that's configurable by you. Now here we're only looking at the world with respect to a single project, and I'm looking at it by phase, my manpower requirements more specifically by phase. So I can see each of my phases: engineering, installation, prefab, completion, etc. And I can look phase by phase and see, where I may have some issues, where I'm over or under allocated. As you can imagine, you might be looking at a portfolio of projects, so more than one, and I might be grouping by project so that I can see which projects are contributing more or less to us being over or under capacity. So a view like this is critical, of course, for looking into the future, whether that's 3 weeks ahead or whether it's 3 years ahead, and understanding where we might need to supplement our workforce, for example, and maybe contract some of this work out, hire some new people, or maybe we even have to make the more unpopular decision of not performing some work because we simply don't have the resources to support that. So with that, at some point during the building of our plan, we might want to go in and understand the probability of meeting the dates that we've actually set on our schedule. And so one way that we can do that is through Safran Project's built-in risk analysis feature. So we have a built-in duration-based risk analysis that really allows for all schedulers and planners, a quick view into the probability of them achieving the dates that they've actually set. And let's talk about how that's done very quickly. So if I look at the lower part of my screen, and how would I get this up? Again, just a right click, and I've moved into the schedule risk area, and I'll see that on the bottom part. And I select an activity. Now I might want to do what's called a 3-point estimate for all of my activities or some of my activities, and then I'm going to show you some other options for that as well. But let's talk about what I mean by a 3-point estimate. So for this particular activity, if we look toward the bottom of the screen, and by the way, I've also got these columns displayed, we're looking at a deterministic duration. Deterministic duration is typically the number of days that we have planned for this activity. We also have an optimistic duration. So what that means is everything goes really, really well with this project. What's the best, situation that we could hope for? And in this case, we're saying, well, if everything goes really smoothly, I bet we could get this activity accomplished in just 30 days instead of the 35 that we've planned. And then our other point estimate would be the pessimistic. If things don't go so well, it could take us up to 39 days to accomplish this particular activity. I also would specify a distribution for the way that the Monte Carlo analysis will essentially work under the covers. So if that doesn't mean anything to you now, don't worry about it. Again, the goal is to put risk in the hands of every planner, every scheduler, every person who has a need for a quick view into this. So typically, if you'll pick the triangle distribution if this is something that you're unfamiliar with. And then a quick right-click, and I'll select Perform Risk Analysis. So in less than a second, I ran over 1,000 iterations of Monte Carlo. If you want to run more iterations than that, it's simply a setting that you would select. And so if I want to, I can pick a particular activity or my entire project, and let's take a look at the results of the risk analysis. So if you're someone on the call today, and this is somewhat new to you, let me kind of explain to you what we're looking at. If we take a look at some of these lines running across the distribution or the analysis results, there's one that's a little bit light blue, pale blue. I'm kind of tracing my cursor against it right now, and if I move over, this is the one that I have set up to go against the completion date that we've set for our project. We have between a 60 and 65% chance of actually achieving the date that we've planned to. So while that's not that bad, it's not actually all that good either. So we as an organization have to decide whether we're okay with that or not, or we want to maybe adjust our schedules to more of the 80% probability date, right? So if I take the green cursor line and trace my cursor up, I can see that I have an 80% probability of coming in on this date. And again, this is all based on the 3-point estimates that we made on our activities. And of course, these dates below here, I have a very slight chance of meeting. And then up here, again, based upon our 3-point estimate, we have a 100% chance of coming in on April 17th, 2015. But let's say, for example, that you have portions of your schedule that maybe you outsource, or it could be a portion that you don't have a lot of expertise in. And so it's difficult for you to say, well, this would be the optimistic and this would be the pessimistic, but yet you still want to have some sort of risk analysis done to the project. You can do what's called a quick risk. And the way that this works is I would say, whatever number of days I've planned for this activity, take 75% of that and make that my optimistic duration, and take 125% of that and make that my pessimistic duration. Of course, these are editable by you. Now, do I want to do that for my entire schedule, or is it just the rows that I have currently selected when I clicked the quick risk, or would I want to apply a filter, right? And maybe there's a portion of my work breakdown structure, like just the prefab activities. I don't have insight into those, so I just want to put kind of a blanket risk on those. So I've got some options there, and again, I would just run the risk analysis and see my results based on a partial blanket risk analysis, or perhaps even to the entire project. So moving gears here again, it's also very common in either the upfront planning process or even while in execution of a project to explore alternatives or play what I would call what-if games with your schedule. Well, Safran Project allows for alternative schedules. And so, in fact, you can have up to 10 alternative schedules per project to kind of play these what-if games. So I have a real simple example laid out for us today. Certainly it can get more complicated than this, but I've selected this particular activity, and if I look at the bottom portion of my screen, I've got the Alternative Schedules tab selected. Now for this example, I've set up 3 what-if alternatives, if you will, and you can name these alternatives anything that you like. And what I've done with these is I've simply said, well, for my working or my current schedule, I planned this activity to be 17 days, but what if it's 45 days? So the what if 1 is changing that duration to 45. What if 2 is changing it to 55? And what if 3? I mean, we might even say, well, what if it's 10? I mean, what if it's fewer days? And so I've also done a visual display of the what ifs on my Gantt chart. So how did I do that? Well, again, with a simple right click, I can look at my symbols. And let's look at a symbol that I've set up and called What If 1. Well, that bar is keying off of the early start actual of What-If 1 and the early finish of What-If 1. Right, and so those dates are obviously pushed off in the future, because if we increase the duration of this activity, because these others following it have a finish to start relationship with it, and they're probably all on the critical path, we're seeing everything kind of push out, if you will. So I'm getting a visualization of how my schedule would change based on these durations. Now that's a really simple example, but there's also a pull down here called Analysis Existence Option. What that's really saying is I can have alternative schedules that have activities that don't exist in my working schedule, and I can see what that would look like if I were to add additional activities to the schedule. I can also start playing around with the order of those activities, if that makes sense as well, in the alternative schedule. Now this starts to get even more powerful when we look at something called the schedule juggler. So what this allows me to do is take any of my what-if schedules, or quite frankly even my working schedule, and push all or a portion of these alternative schedules into another alternative schedule or my working schedule. And so what do I mean by a push? Well, I could select specific rows, and I could say, okay, these 3 activities, I feel good about the way that I've refined them in one of my what-if schedules, and I want to push just these 3 activities from what-if 1 into my working schedule. But I might also want to apply a filter. Maybe it's just those that are in a certain work breakdown structure, or just those that need a certain value of a code, or maybe just those in a certain date range. So again, I can push all or portions from one alternative schedule to another alternative schedule, and then I could refine those together, and then I could push that combination into my working schedule. So hopefully you're seeing some functionality here that's rather unique to Safran. I've seen other products, you know, people tend to do this with kind of a copy of a schedule, and they try to play around with that and then modify portions of the working schedule. So it's a little less clean, and it's a lot more error-prone than our approach to what-if scheduling. So Safran Project also includes a built-in change register. So I'm looking at that same project again, and again I've got different columns showing up in this particular layout, and I've got them colored differently. I've got my bar chart different because I've got some filters put on it. But what are we really looking at here? Well, let's open up our change register, and we have what are called VOs, or variance orders. So some customers call these change orders. It would be something very similar. So in variance order 1, I've got it assigned to a client in this case, and I've got some descriptions or remarks. But more importantly, what I'm looking at here are what activities would have to be added or would be affected by this change order, and then also the man hours associated with the change order for various activities, and obviously the cost of those man hours times the number of hours, and then we're looking at a $3.5 million change order here if this becomes approved. So I can also look at things like different costs and duration effect of this, if this change order would be approved. So from a visual perspective, again, I think a little bit of a differentiator for us, this is variance order number 1. What I've done is I've basically said if an activity has a change order associated with it, color it purple, and I would also like to display the number of hours associated with that variance order to the right of that bar, and also the change order number. So I get a really nice visualization here. I might also want to take this one step further and put a filter on this layout such that I'm only seeing the activities that have a change order associated with them, and I can really take a look at the impact and look at that roll up to a project or even a portfolio perspective if I had more than one project open at this point. So lastly, I'd kind of like to move into the earned value management area and just kind of briefly discuss it. Certainly this is a topic that we could have an entire seminar on, and certainly in theory we could probably have a class that would be 2 or 3 days in duration. So I'll just briefly cover this. And if this is something that you're really interested in, please let us know, because we'll be holding some sessions that are just focused on earned value management in the future. But what Safran allows you to do is, at the activity level, if it's appropriate, assign an earned value method. So that's what you're looking at here. And so it's pretty common, especially in government work, that you might be selecting one of these three. So what in the world is a 0-100 earned value method? So if this is something that's new to you and you're on the call today, what it means is that I don't earn anything on this activity until it's completed. So I earn 0 until it's 100% complete. So that's what we have assigned to this particular activity. The next activity, we've assigned the earned value method of 2080. And so what that means is when the activity starts, we'll automatically earn 20%. And then once that activity is completed, we'll earn the remaining, which is 80. You also have the ability to do an X and Y method, and what that means is that you can put in the values. So in this case, I basically said that when we're 40, I'd put in 40 and 60 as opposed to, say, a 0-100. And so when we start this activity, we will have earned 40, and then once we complete, we'll be at 60. So I can't go into too much detail given the time that we have today, but you can see there are several more options here that we would explore in a future session. So if I also take a look at my Gantt chart here, I've also got progress displayed on the Gantt. And so that's something we haven't seen until we reach this layout here. So since we're talking about earned value and performance and things like that, it's a real good opportunity to kind of move into some of our out-of-the-box reporting capabilities. So I've just clicked on reports, and there were several types that popped up in the pull-down. And so this one is one of our histogram or S-curve configurations. So I've only got one report that's a histogram or S-curve, but certainly I could create multiple different versions of this and have them available for just me, or maybe I want to publish them to all users or whatever's appropriate. So when I build a report in Safran, I can put my company logo on here. I can specify different colors for things. Let's just do a quick print preview of this histogram S-curve and take a look at what it looks like with just a few configurations from a wizard. So in this particular report, what we're doing is we're actually comparing our baseline quantity in red to our actual earned quantity in green, and we can see the S-curves that correspond to this. So I certainly don't mean to insult anybody, but obviously to do a curve and a histogram like this, we're measuring progress over time. And so what you're looking at here when you take a look at the x-axis are various reporting periods or cutoff dates that are established by you when you create the project. And all of the history associated with these reporting periods is kept locally in the same database. So I can't stress enough that there's not a fancy report writing engine that has to be licensed and purchased and bolted onto the back end of this product. It's included in the product along with the data that you would need to easily build these reports. So let's take a look at another one of our out-of-the-box reports that, a lot of times I find that end users just want a simple tabular view. And they want to be able to put a little bit of color to that to maybe call some things out. So this one is our progress summary report configuration. And again, when I build it, I might want to put my company logo on that. And how would I do it? Well, it's just a simple right-click, and I would change the logo. And then maybe I want to put a filter on here because I only want to report over a single project or just a particular work breakdown structure, certain activities that need a certain code value. And then in terms of the report, instead of having to understand, some complicated formatting options, I would simply do some specifications based on paging and sectioning, colors. And then here I'm going to take a look for this, since it's a tabular report, which fields do I want to turn on for the report. So you can see I've just checked the fields that I would like to display, and I also put some sizing to the field. Okay, so I'm just putting a width, a column width, if you will, onto the report, and then I've done some background coloring. So let's do a quick preview of this report and see what it looks like. So again, a very simple tabular report where I'm looking at certain activities. I'm looking at my baseline and some change. It would be typical that you might put a variance column on here as well. And then I've highlighted some things in green and yellow just to make them kind of stand up. I can see the date that it was generated, etc. So really, hopefully you're seeing that very quickly I could get some really nice, powerful reports out of Safran Project with just a few clicks and a little bit of training on a wizard. So in conclusion, I mean, I really appreciate your time today. That concludes the demo, and I'm going to pass it back to my colleague, Jeff.
Well, hey, thanks, Camille. I appreciate it and appreciate the demo. You know, again, just to recap, and we're going to move into Q&A here in a second. Just to recap, you know, hopefully everyone today got a feel for what makes Safran different than what else is in the market. So, A, our market focus, asset intensive only. That's where we spend our time and money. And two, or B, the 3 steps of project excellence. And what that really means is having all of these capabilities to create the plan in step 1. Go ahead, Camille. To risk adjust the plan in step 2. And finally, to report and manage the plan in step 3. It's all being in one tool. So while a lot of people have these processes in place as an organization, they're having to use multiple tools to accomplish this. And with Safran, we give you the ability to do it all in one tool. So as we move into Q&A, I'll leave this slide up. It has our generic contact at sales, but that's manned 24/7, and you will get a response quickly for any information requests. And then, of course, you know, our website, www.safran.com, and all the information's there. And if you look, when you go to the front page, you'll have these 3 colored bars, and at the bottom of the blue one, or teal one, is you'll see new Safran report sample book. That's what I referred to earlier for you all to go to and download. I would highly suggest it. It gives you a good feel for the reports in the tool. It also gives you a really good feel for how the tool works and the value that the tool delivers. So with that, Katie, I'll hand it over to you for Q&A, and Camille and I are ready to answer.
Okay, I've seen a couple of questions come through, and they should be there in your chat window.
Yeah, so Katie, I've got the chat open. It looks like someone's asking, Camille, you mentioned that you have a lot of reports right out of the box. Can you tell us more about this? Yeah, that's a really great question. So we only had time to just show a handful today, but just so everybody knows, if you go to our website, there's a link to our reporting book. And it has almost 50, I think, examples of our out-of-the-box reports where you can really see how we take advantage of the built-in history that's right in the same database, and how you can do those with literally a few clicks in a wizard. And it looks like the next question is, are the reports stored in a different database? So yeah, again, a really, really good question. They're all resident here in the same Safran database. So they run very quickly. There's not an ETL that has to take place, you know, to a separate database. I mean, they're right here for you to use. And we've also had customers that they want a report that maybe isn't one that we provide. And again, because the data is right here in the database, it's very quick to kind of go down to that next level and create a view and build a report on top of that. So let's see. It looks like somebody else is asking, do I have to buy a separate module to be able to risk adjust the schedule? Jeff, that's probably a better one for you.
No, it's all included in the one tool. So anyone licensed for Safran Project gets all of the capabilities we talked about today.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And somebody is asking, sharing reports with other stakeholders, how does that work? Again, a really excellent question and something I didn't really touch on. So we have the ability to obviously have these reports scheduled and delivered or batch delivered. You know, they could even be produced in an HTML and put up on a website for somebody to consume. We have the ability through our own web interface for people to log on and consume reports in that fashion. So there's a number of ways, again, that could take place. Okay, someone's asking, can I see more than one project at a time? That's another great question, because in today's demo, I kind of wanted to keep things simple, and we just looked at a simple one project throughout. But absolutely, you can open up multiple projects, and you can have them grouped and filtered in a way where you can get a roll-up and a look into totals, averages, those kinds of things across an entire portfolio of projects. Okay, so let's see. We've got another question here. When you risk adjust the schedule, how is that documented for use in the written narrative or basis of schedule that would be submitted to the owner or reviewer? Is that an automatic function, or do you have to keep track of what changes are made? Okay, so certainly that's a report that you could submit in a paper form or in an electronic form, or if obviously if you gave that owner the ability to tunnel into your system, they could run the report themselves. I'm sure that's probably the least favorable, right? But again, there's a number of ways that you could provide that. And is that an automatic function, or do you have to keep track of what changes are made? I'm not. I would probably need a little bit more information on that question to be able to more accurately answer it. So, Katie, being that everybody's muted, perhaps you can capture the person that's. It's Chris Carson. Maybe we can get back with him individually, since I'm not sure I fully understand his question.
Great. I've got one about cost. So someone asked, what's the cost of this product, a single user license? So fair question. It's $2,500 US per single user. Obviously, pricing is based on volume. So, and that includes all of the capabilities. So most of you are probably real familiar with having to license a risk and license a reporting user and license a project management user. Again, the $2,500 would give you all of those capabilities for that user. And that's a, I'm sorry, to be completely clear, that's a one-time fee, and then like all enterprise software, there's an annual maintenance fee.
Okay, so it looks like Chris has come back. When you accept a what-if scenario, how are those changes captured so you can communicate them with the schedule update? Yeah, that's a really good question, Chris. And so I have to be honest with you, it's probably a little bit more involved than what we can go into today. But the answer is that Safran actually approaches scheduling a little bit differently than some of our competitors, in that at any given time, you can have a number of revised schedules. You can have a forecast schedule. You have your current schedule, which is your progress schedule. But then you also have what's known as the live schedule. Likely the live schedule would be the one that you would want to have these what-if alternative schedules merged into, because that is almost a reflection of what your baseline really would have been if you'd known of all these things up front, right? So, of course, you still have your baseline, you would have your live schedule, and then you would have your current schedule, and then you could have revisions. Okay, and so among those schedules, you could look at several of them at the same time through the bar chart, right? So you would have different bars that would, through their color, would denote which one of those schedules they're a member of, and then you could report on those various schedules in a number of ways to help communicate that. So hopefully I've clarified that, Chris, and if I haven't, we can certainly have a longer conversation offline.
I should have added y'all this, in addition to the other assets I pointed you to the website for, this will be recorded and made available on the website. So if you want to review any parts, if Camille and I were that entertaining, you can do that. Or if you want to share it with anyone in your organization, please do feel free to point them in the direction of this WebEx, because it will be downloadable and you'll be able to view it on your own time at any time. So Katie, I think with that, we'll hand it back to you for wrap. Or I'll call that a wrap, and we'll end the call now. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate the time you spent learning more about Safran and Safran Project.
Thanks, Jeff.